Good afternoon.
Mr. Brennan,
Present.
Mr. Rickerman,
Here.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Duval,
Present.
Mr. Vine,
Here.
Mr. Davis,
Here.
Mayor Benjamin.
I'm present, ma'am, and glad you are too.
Thank
All right.
you. Thank you.
Reverend McDowell, would you bless us with a word, please, brother?
Yes, sir. I'll be happy to. Let us pray. Gracious God, for the benefits you've afforded us to share in the use of our talents for life and for health, and for the abundance of grace that surrounds each of us. We come today to talk and to discuss the issues of our city in such a way that your grace may permeate each one of us and to members of this city of ours. Lord, we ask for a faith that is abiding, and yet we ask for sensibilities as we struggle through some of the issues. Are great. We pause in this season of vicissitudes and yet abundance to say thank you for the blessings we've received. We ask it. We can't claim it in your name. And every heart says, amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is there a motion to adopt the agenda just for those who might be watching? We're going to take up emergency ordinance number 6, executive session, but we'll move through the rest of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda stated?
Move we adopt the agenda as presented.
Move Mr. Duval, second Mr. McDowell. Any discussion? We'll move the previous question. Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Rickerman,
Aye.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Duval,
Aye.
Mr. Vine,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye. Thank you, ma'am.
And
You're
Mayor
welcome.
Benjamin, for the sake of the public, the listening public, you said item 6 after executive session, correct? I
Yes.
think it was breaking up just a little bit.
Yeah. Sorry, ma'am. Yeah, item 6 after executive session.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, well, thank you, Mayor Benjamin and council, and let me thank you, applaud you for the guidance that you always give us during the budget season, albeit a different one again, as we move through last year's budget, right when the pandemic was upon us. We have maintained and sustained ourselves with your assistance, and we're at the point to ask for your approval after a public hearing of a first reading of our budget for FY 21-22. And so we have presented it to you, made some adjustments upon your direction, and we're ready to present it again today, a little bit more abbreviated, but for the sake of the public and any input they may have. And also doing it in a little bit more of an expedited manner so that we can take advantage of the American Rescue Plan funds, as we're now getting guidance on those, and moving forward, hopefully if we need to amend the budget later, but going ahead, getting it approved earlier this year, well before the June 30 mandate by the state, so that we have even more time to make any adjustments that we may need. So we thank you. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Missy Kaufman, our Budget and Program Management Director.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Good afternoon, Mayor and members of the City Council. It's great to be here today and present to you on behalf of the City Manager, Ms. Teresa Wilson, the proposed budget for fiscal year 21-22. As we discuss today's budget, we want to make sure we are sharing with you guiding principles that we use to develop this budget, as the City Manager puts out every year. When departments are preparing their budget request, and as we are going through the budget process, those things that guide our budget development and utilizing City Council's directions as well. Of course, continuity of operations is key and important to this process, making sure that our department resources needed to provide our city services. One of those items specifically in this coming budget is the restored capital replacement program for our rolling stock and some technology refresh. That was one of the items that was suspended in the current year, so we are pleased to be able to move forward there. In order to do that, we also are continuing to provide excellent day-to-day service to our community, making sure that we provide our highest level of customer care for our residents, visitors, and businesses. The city has been able to remain open and provide services as we move forward through the pandemic, and making sure a component of a well-managed and well-run city. Finally, we want to make sure we are addressing our critical infrastructure needs with a restored water and sewer capital improvement program, as well as our stormwater programs, restored in the sense that we're back proposed to our 120 million CIP that we have had to suspend the current year. So this year we'll be able to move forward with 120, hopefully, as we move forward in today. And then also, too, being able to address other infrastructure needs with discussions of family park rehabilitation. The other budget drivers that were developed impact the development of this budget is that, of course, as we have progressed through this year, we certainly know more now than we did a year ago as we were entering this pandemic, but there's still various areas of concern or of uncertainty. So we proceed cautiously. Our departments were asked to prepare their budget requests using current year budgets, as we talked about and mentioned before. So we are still operating on reduced capacity at that point. We also had a very compressed but a focused budget process this year. It was compressed, and some of the information again that we normally would have is not available. So we are able to focus in making sure that we have identified any efficiencies that we've gained from our work arrangements, availability of technology being a key component of that opportunity. Making sure we capture our shortfalls and gaps in services to make sure that we're able to provide those important services, and making sure that we stay focused on our priorities and maintaining services. Ongoing, as we proceed through this budget, we will again continue to monitor, as we have been, where we are with our budgets, where we are with our revenues, making sure we try to stay ahead as possible of any potential shortfalls or concerns. We are prepared to amend the budget moving forward as the ARP funds, which becomes available today, as a matter of fact, but also too as we move forward with addressing cost of living adjustments as well. So moving into the actual budget discussions, the total proposed budget for fiscal year 21-22 is $376 million, covering all of our operating funds, which include our general fund, our hospitality tax fund, accommodations tax fund, our water and sewer operating fund, our stormwater operating fund, and our parking fund. Water and sewer is now exceeded as the largest of our operating budgets, followed by, of course, the general fund, and then followed by our remaining areas as well. Moving into our capital improvement program, the water capital improvement program is $40 million, a sewer CIP of $80 million, stormwater CIP of $11.5 million, and then our hospitality tax includes capital improvements this year as well for $1.7 for a total of $133,250,000. Moving first into our proposed general fund budget, the total proposed budget is $155 million. Moving first with our revenue discussions, demonstrating here, just showing where we have been with our actual collections and some of our primary, our major sources of revenue of the general fund, which include property taxes licenses and permits and from other agencies in our service charges. It's hard to see here, but you can see some of the fluctuation or minor fluctuation from year to year, indicating we're still, while we are looking positive and showing some growth, we certainly are not at pre-pandemic levels with regards to our licenses and permits. Property taxes are performing better than I think we initially anticipated they could, based on the uncertainty of the pandemic, as the impacts potentially on the local option sales tax. We were grateful to see that those revenues are actually coming in on schedule, which is a value not only to the city, but also to our residents who receive that local option sales tax as a rebate on their property tax. Finally, I would like to also point out that this budget does not include a property tax increase, and that is the 12th straight year of no property tax increase in the general fund budget. Just continuing our conversations with revenues and transfers, as we look at our transfers in, they are significantly higher this year than normal. Our transfers in and other financing sources include $23.8 million. That's an increase of $15 million over the current year budget, primarily because of the fact that we have reinstated our capital lease purchase, and the proceeds from that are based on the issuance of $9 million. So that's obviously a large portion of that $15 million increase. Had we not missed last year, it would be more in line with previous years. The budget does include an allocation from the American Rescue Plan of $1.6 million, and also includes the installment purchase revenue bond proceeds for the security camera upgrades of $2.5 million. That's one item that is a budgetary item, so it's reflected in the budget here. And then we've also been able to restore the hospitality tax transfer of $3.7 million. This budget does not use any use of fund balance. With regards to our general fund expenditures, our department's operating budget is $126 million. That's a $4.4 million increase over the current year budget. Please keep in mind, though, that the baseline budget is still using the fiscal year 18-19 actual. The increases that are in the budget are limited primarily to those things that are adjusted based on either annual contract adjustments or other schedules that call for adjustments on an annualized basis, including our Microsoft Enterprise license and cloud, and the addition of some cloud software that obviously we needed in order to operate in a more remote setting the way we have been able to do this past year. The emergency CAD system that's operated out of our 911 system is reflected. The citywide election is also reflected. Our recycling contract this year is also a significant increase over the budget. And then we also had we were anticipating the PIVA rate increase in the coming year. There are some departments' budgets that have restored some limited of vacant positions that were frozen in the current year that was part of our ability to balance the budget in the current year with vacancy savings. Some departments are able to reflect some restored funding for those positions. Expenditure-wise, just demonstrating again, as far as the general fund goes, the general fund and city services we are a service industry. A service industry requires personnel, so the majority of the city's budget, general fund specifically, is personnel services, our employees, which is also one of our most significant assets. The majority of the budget this year, in terms of the increases, though, is that transfers out and non-departmental expenses, which we'll go through. Primarily, those are related to some debt service and other associated costs. Also, the security cameras are in that non-departmental cost. Continuing with expenditures, non-departmental is totaling $11.7 million, an increase of 3.6. Wanting to again focus that return of the capital lease, so that with the $6.2 million, that's a large portion of our non-departmental cost is related to the lease payment. Also is reflected $2.5 million for the security camera upgrades that's being funded through the installment purchase revenue bond proceeds. transfers out is the actual $9 million, where the $9 million is budgeted. As the vehicles are purchased, they are actually charged back to the department, and then the budgets are adjusted for those purchases. The $9 million this year will cover a variety of heavy equipment and our vehicles, including a fire ladder truck, police patrol cars, and other associated police equipment, our solid waste equipment, parks and recreation equipment, and some other departments as well. But those certainly are the largest users of that lease. So that's a very important and grateful to be able to return that in this proposed budget. Moving into the proposed water and sewer fund, the total water and sewer fund budget is $182 million. It's an increase of 13.8, with an 8% increase over the current year. The operating revenues for the water and sewer budget is $178 million, which is also an increase of 13.8 or 8%. It does include a 5.02% increase for rates this year, which generate $8 million of that increase. The revenues from that rate increase solely go to fund our capital improvement program and the associated debt service with that issued debt for the proposed water and sewer capital improvement program. The water and sewer rate study, just reminding council some of the discussion from the water and sewer rate study. Of course, we do a rate study every year. It is important in order to maintain our financial integrity of our water and sewer system and make sure that our rates are adjusted in order to provide the necessary resources to operate and maintain the system at a high standard. The rate study assumption include both a cash and a bond issuance for our proposed water and sewer CIP, with 68.5% coming from bond and another 31.5% coming from operating cash, which is reflected in the operating budget as well as that transfer to CIP. With this rate increase and with the other items, this still keeps us at a debt service coverage of 2.0, which is the desired debt service coverage that the city has on our financial financing of CIP. The water and sewer operating budget, the largest user of our water and sewer budget is our utilities department, which includes our staffing and our utility operations, our plants, our water plants, our wastewater plants, our maintenance divisions, our construction divisions. It also, those budgets also include any some of the staff related construction maintenance construction items that are not part of our CIP. Non-departmental is $53.5 million. The largest portion of that is the debt service budget, which is at $42.9 million of that $53 million. It does include a slight increase for the proposed bond issuance for the $120 million CIP that is proposed. And then, of course, we also have cash reserves that are budgeted as part of the financial plan as well, which is $9.5 million. Transfers out total $25.4 million, which includes the $18 million that's transferred as cash from the water and sewer system to the CIP. And of course, it does include the general fund indirect cost allocation of $4.1, which is a reduction of $2 million from the current year, but is the same as in previous years. There's no change from our standard. Just as in demonstration as well, from the water and sewer rate study showing the city's proposed water and sewer rate increases in terms of where our rates fall with existing rates, and then how our rates line up with our surrounding communities and service providers. The proposed water and stormwater budget is $15.6 million. It is an increase of roughly $1.6 million, or 11% over the current year. This also too includes a rate increase that was anticipated as a part of a 2016 ordinance adopting a 5-year rate plan. This is year 4 of that rate plan. The current year was postponed, of course, due to the pandemic, so it's proposed to continue in the coming year. This would take our equivalent residential units, which is a flat rate charge to the amount charged on the residential units, for stormwater would take the rate from $13.32 to $14.15, and it's an increase of 83 cents a month. Again, the rate increase from the stormwater fee goes to fund our stormwater operations, both the internal maintenance services and maintenance construction, as well as funding $11 million capital improvement program, which continues a 5-year plan for the $93 million in stormwater improvements that were identified in terms of alleviating nuisance flooding and promoting our water quality. Again, talking about our stormwater funds, the operating departments for our stormwater system include Public Works, which is where the street division, a lot of where the maintenance crews are housed. These are the crews that are responsible for maintaining our stormwater system, and the heavy user of the stormwater budget, as well as our engineering services. And then, of course, we do have debt service and then budgeted reserves as required as a part of our financial plan as well for our financing of our stormwater system bonds. High-level overview of our proposed water and sewer capital improvement program. The water capital improvement program totals $40 million, with the largest portion of that water and sewer CIP being water quality projects. Next will be water plant improvements. Then our wastewater projects is $80 million, and of course that includes our staffing, our system capacity and improvements, but also system rehabilitation. The proposed water and sewer project list and sewer project list, as well as the stormwater improvement list, is attached to the ordinance that is also linked on today's agenda for anyone who's interested in seeing the projects that are proposed in this year's CIP. Again, $80 million in CIP. And stormwater of $11 million. Next, we have our parking fund. Our proposed parking fund is $9 million. It reflects an increase of 1.3 over the current year budget. The revenues for the parking fund actually total 6.2, which is a reduction of almost 1.3 million and 17% below the current year budget, and it's 652,000 below prior year actuals. Our parking fund is probably one of the most hit revenue streams by the pandemic. We still are below pre-pandemic levels from fiscal year 18-19. And because of the impact on the parking system by the pandemic, we are reflecting the use of the American Rescue Plan funds of 2.7. The parking fund budget, with these funds, we're able to be able to continue to provide the services needed in our parking fund going forward. Mostly to be able to include our maintenance projects as well as ongoing operations, lighting, electricity, all the other things needed for our garages to help keep them functioning, clean, and safe. The parking fund budget also includes $2.8 million in existing debt service for our debt service payments from prior issued bonds. Finally, moving into our proposed hospitality tax and accommodations tax fund. The hospitality tax budget is $11.8 million. It is restored to its almost pre-pandemic levels, but still not quite at pre-pandemic levels. It is projected to increase $4.2 million, or 57% budget over the current year budget. We are seeing great improvements in the hospitality tax revenue stream, thankfully, much better than anticipated, but we're still below pre-pandemic collection levels. So we're not there yet. We definitely look a lot better, but we're not pre-pandemic levels. So we are reflecting use of the American Rescue Plan funds. The hospitality tax budget includes $3.4 million for allocation for the hospitality tax grant program. That's an increase of $587,000. There are no indications in the budget as to how those funds would be allocated. Those would be a future conversation with City Council. Debt service in the hospitality tax budget is reflected in $2.7 million. that's existing debt. That is not issuing any new debt for any other capital projects this year, but we anticipate coming forward in future years for being able to with the Finley Park rehabilitation. It does restore the transfer to the general fund of $3.7 million. The hospitality tax budget also includes, as part of its capital projects, $250,000 for restoring some major repairs to the fountain and 5 Points, but also for funding pre-construction work and design of Finley Park rehabilitation to be able to move that project forward in this coming fiscal year. It's budgeted at $1.5 million. Finally, the accommodations tax is proposed at $1.5 million. It's an increase of $57 million, right at 3.4%, right at 4% of the current year budget. We certainly are seeing a significant impact in the accommodations tax by the pandemic. We are seeing improvements over what we were projecting, but we're still below pre-pandemic collection levels. Much like the hospitality tax budget, we have not made any determination as to the allocation of those of the accommodations tax funds, other than those that are directed by state law. The first item in state law with regards to accommodations tax is a transfer of $25,000 to the general fund. 30% is allocated for advertising and promotion of tourism. 65% is allocated for tourism-related expenditures. Those funds are typically allocated from the or recommended by the accommodations tax committee, which we will be convening here before July, and then come back to city council for approval. And then, of course, 5% is for general purposes in terms of how city council has used those in the past. That is funded Together We Can Read and has funded previously One Columbia. Just as a reminder from our conversation 2 weeks ago with regards to how we have proposed use of the American Rescue Plan, since we have included the American Rescue Plan in the proposed budget, we wanted to remind City Council very preliminary discussions with regards to how we have proposed use of those funds. The guidance did come out from Treasury yesterday. Admittedly, we have not yet read the 151 pages of that guidance, but I assure you we will be going through that with Ralph and many of the other resources that have been gratefully made available to us and others with regards to interpretations of the rescue plan and the Treasury's guidance. We look forward to be able to have those discussions as we go forward. Ms. Wilson, I'll pause there for a moment to see if you have any other comments you want to make about the rescue plan before we go on, or we want to complete the presentation and come back to anything else the City Council may have with regards to other questions.
You have covered everything quite capably, Missy, as always. I appreciate you.
So finally, I would want to take an opportunity to say thank you not only to Mayor and City Council and City Manager, but also to our staff and to our employees who make this project and this process much easier than it probably looks sometimes, but it is definitely a team effort. Also to our citizens who receive our services and that we work with and our partners. And would not want to miss an opportunity to thank Mayor Benjamin and Councilman Davis. This is, I believe, your last budget that you will be approving unless we have an amended one before November. So I want to thank you for all of your support through the years and thank you for all of your assistance. I'm glad to be bringing forward this last budget for your consideration. So thank you.
Hey, did you say 12 years, no tax increases, Missy?
12 years, 12 years, no tax increase.
Everyone remember that, okay? Remember that. And Missy, I'll take the thank you. All those other words, half of them, I'm not convinced to say thank you in any language whatsoever. Sam can have.
Missy, Mayor, Mr. Mayor.
Let's get Mr. Davis. I think has his hand up first, Mr. McDowell. Sam.
To follow up on your this point, Missy, I think you know that I've been sort of painstaking as we go through each year's budget and that sort of thing. But no matter how much anxiety we may have had over the years of getting to that bottom line, you've always had a way of bringing us what's real, what's on the table, and try and, I think sometimes you sort of hint on how we might get through the process. I think that's a sign of, I think, your commitment and attention to what we need to do in order to make sure that this tax dollars are going where they should go, and we try and get the best bang out of them. So congratulate you on that.
Thank you.
McDowell, you had something, my friend?
Yes. Missy, let me just say a word of thanks. I tell you, this is totally new. Then, of course, the presentation, when I look at this, when I look at your presentation today and compare it to years past, you've done an exceptional job, and I'm certainly appreciative of that. One or two, just one, not questions, but just to make sure I got the right information. Finley Park, I seen it at the very bottom of that screen. I think for construction and design, was that 1.4 million?
Yes, sir, it's 1.5 million.
Oh, okay. 1.5.
That's for design work and pre-construction cost.
That's correct. Okay. I didn't see, I seen it at the very end of that presentation and I couldn't see the number. Thank you. Let me ask you this. The availability of hospitality tax funds is 3.4 million.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm fine. Thank you a lot. That's what I needed.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Obviously,
And property taxes. Okay, I got it. Thank you, ma'am.
you got more closings than the Baptist preacher, man. You done?
Yeah. Let me close now.
I know Sam and I are on the way out the door, but I know, to me, Teresa, on behalf of this whole council, just really solid administrative and financial leadership in times of plenty, in times of scarcity. Thank you and Jeff and Missy and the whole team. And while some of you may miss me and may miss Sam when we go, you're really gonna miss Jan Alonzo. That's a whole other story. That's a whole other you got a solid team, a really solid team, and let's keep doing the people's work, particularly in these challenging times. Ms. Devine.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to echo and just elevate for everybody. I mean, I know we all appreciate it, but I really want to make sure that the public appreciates that with this budget and this year, staff has done an amazing job. There are cities across this country that have laid off staff that are looking at not bringing back people, even with the economy coming back and getting the American Rescue Act plans proposals. So I just wanted to thank Teresa and Jeff and the entire staff because we have gotten through this not unscathed, but certainly a lot better than most people are. And it is a testament to not just what you've done over the last year and a half, but what you did beforehand so that we were in a position to get through COVID in a way that has the least impact of our constituency. And so I think it's very important that we highlight that a lot of cities are really suffering, and our staff has done an amazing job to get us to this point and in order prepared us to move forward after the pandemic. So thank you so much. And we appreciate your hard work in getting us here.
We appreciate you all, Ms. Devine. Thank you, all of you.
All right. I don't think I see any other hands. So let's rock and roll.
Thank you.
Mayor Benjamin, at this time, Missy, do we need to read into the record the various ordinances and open it up for any public input, or would you like to? How do you want to do this, Mayor Benjamin? I'll let you take the lead this time on the.
Let's read them all into the
Okay.
The record.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. So we have ordinance number 2021-022 to raise revenue and adopt the budget for the city of Columbia, South Carolina for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2022. We also have item 3, ordinance number 2021-041, amending the 1998 Code of Ordinances of the city of Columbia, South Carolina, chapter 23, Utilities and Engineering, Article 5, Water and Sewer Rates, Section 23-143, Water Service Rates, and Section 23-149, Sewer Service Rates A and B. Item 4 is ordinance number 2021-042, amending the 1998 Code of Ordinances of the city of Columbia, South Carolina, chapter 23, Utilities and Engineering, Article 5, Water and Sewer Rates, Section 23-144, Special Water Service Fees. And item 5, ordinance number 2021-043, amending the 1998 Code of Ordinances of the city of Columbia, South Carolina, chapter 23, Utilities and Engineering, Article 5, Water and Sewer Rates, Section 23-152, the sewer plant expansion fee.
Are we able to take those in the aggregate as one motion, Ms. Knox?
I don't think so, Mayor.
Let's take them one by one. I'm sorry. I think we're in the public hearing as well.
Yes, sir.
Madam
Yes,
Clerk,
sir.
do you have any citizens who called in to speak on any of the issue, comment, or questions on any of the items?
Yes, sir. We have about 6 callers on the line. We have 1 caller who has entered the speaker queue. And as we prepare to join that individual to the meeting, I will remind the other callers that if you would like to join the speaker queue, you'll need to press *3, or you can press *2 to leave a voicemail. And at this time, Mayor, if you all are ready, we will add the first caller to the meeting.
Sure. And have they indicated the specific interest in the budget public hearing?
We don't quite have that capability, sir. And
Okay.
so.
All right. Okay. Well, we may want to do an all input here if we have to. But okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. And again, we only have 1 caller at this time.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Hello, Mayor Benjamin and City Council. It's Della Watkins calling from the Columbia Museum of Art. And thank you so much for the opportunity to present today. I wish to appeal to you for the support of the City of Columbia as you consider the budget for the upcoming year. We just celebrated 70th anniversary of the City of Columbia's proud fine arts institution in the cultural heart of your city. We are beloved by visitors and residents alike. But while considering the challenges and fiscal realities, and I just heard some better news around the hospitality revenues, the CMA respectfully requests a full support in this budget cycle. As you know, the CMA is city-owned and supported facility, energizing Main Street and the entire city. The relationship between CMA and the City of Columbia is a very special one, as you also appoint members to our museum commission. In the fiscal year 2017, the City of Columbia made a generous 5-year, $1 million commitment to our capital campaign. The city fulfilled its pledges through FY20, but paused the investment during the current budget year. We respectfully urge the council to make the final payment of $300,000 to the capital campaign to finish that commitment and pledge. In addition, the CMA requests the full restoration of our grant funding for the facilities operations and tourism marketing in support of at least $700,000. Now, despite the challenges posed by COVID-19, your museum has been very resilient. Our collections exhibitions, and programs are safe and open and very active. And I want you to remember, not long ago, in January of last year, the Van Gogh exhibition, Van Gogh and His Inspirations, was the largest in the museum's history, welcoming 63,000 visitors from 50 states and 24 countries in just 3 months. And more importantly, our visitation continues to grow steadily. Right now, we have a bright summer. Our current exhibition of M.C. Escher is a major draw for thousands of visitors showing up even during this time. And our school children are active online and will return to the museum to study world-class art very soon. In the coming year, we want to build on this success by opening some remarkable special exhibitions. I want you to know that I have contracted a premiere show of contemporary African-American art and a major show of Rodin bronze sculptures in the spring. All of this work, I promise to you that our museum will be inspiring, welcoming to all, community-centered, and a great, vibrant place to be. As your city art museum, please know that I'm proud to serve you, our constituents, and our visitors. We have a shared vision, and it is to spark those connections from art from around the corner and around the world. So it's welcoming to all of us. Thank you again for your partnership, and don't forget me in the budget.
Thank you. Thank you, Della.
Yes.
All right. Anyone else, Erica?
No, sir.
All right, super. Well, we think the world of the Columbia Museum of Art is a gradual, and we're thankful for their incredible hard work, particularly through the pandemic. Let's rock and roll. Let's take them up one by one. Item number 2, as read by the city manager. I'm sorry, any discussion from council? I apologize. We can take them up one by one discussion. Ordinance.
Councilman, come on over.
Ordinance 2021-022. Is there a motion?
No, I'm fine.
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? And Ed, your camera's off, but your mic's on. We're going to move the previous question. Call the roll.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Rickaman,
Aye.
Mr. McDowell,
Are you on mute, Ed?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Mr. Duval,
Aye.
Mr. Vine,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye. Thank you. As articulated by the city manager, read into the record, ordinance 2021-041. Is there a motion for approval?
So move.
Comment.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion, Mr. Davis.
Yeah. Sorry, Missy. I have some angst about I think most of you know about the rate increases here. And I was really laboring on full support of this. I would maybe give my support of it, but I think I would like to see us maybe at some point either revisit this or pay special attention, more attention. We've done a lot of it this year to the actual impact of the increase on residents, especially residential. I think all of you know that this has not been a good year as a result of the increases in water and sewer. And I just think that is something that we've got to be very, very mindful of. And the price of, a good system does have its burdens, but I tend to put the residents first when it comes to the impact of our increases in water and sewer.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Duval.
Well, nobody ever makes to raise rates, but this is a very modest rate, 5.02% increase. That's about 2.5% over the 2 years. We didn't raise any rates last year. And we have found from Robert's yearly presentation to the city council that if we do not have a modest increase almost every year, we're going to look at a much larger increase in the future. The average rate of 6,000, average use of about 6,000 gallons of water per month is a little over $1 increase. So I would urge the council to adopt this rate increase. We still have, for the basic utility fee, 300 cubic feet of water that is given with the basic rate. So you get the first almost 2,100 gallons of water with your basic rate. So you're only paying for around another 3,000 gallons, even if you use 6,000 gallons a month. I would urge the council to bite the bullet and make this increase.
Howard, Mr. Mayor, I don't disagree with you, but I'm speaking to the impact.
Sure.
And I don't know if you entertain as many requests and complaints and issues regarding residents' ability to pay. There are people out there who are not as, I think, comfortable as some of us are, and we need to always take that under consideration.
No, Sam, you've always been. I mean, I can't think of a rate increase we've entertained over all these years. You haven't had the same comment because it's important.
Yeah, I just think that. Okay.
I understand, and obviously, about your comments. The reality is that when you make investments in infrastructure, you're not making investments for 2021. You're making them for posterity. And if you're not making investments of $50 now, or you're going to make an investment of $5,000 later on. I do believe that the very thoughtful and strategic investments we've made over the last nearly decade now will inure the long-term health and benefit of our citizens, not only providing clean water, but also protecting our rivers and tributaries, and making a long-term commitment to strong environment and sustainability. The work done by our staff and by our consultants have helped us get to a point that we can make the right amount of investment in our water and wastewater system, while as well keeping the rate increases very low. Is I believe the right balance we need to strike. But we always, I agree, Mr. Davis, need to keep eyes on affordability, and we compare very well to our peers from across the Southeast. But if we never ask that question, then we're certainly not asking all the right questions. So I understand the concern. But these are investments, particularly in an environment right now where interest rates are historically low. So we've got to make these investments now into our infrastructure. So I support the increase as well, but appreciate your constant leadership in the specific space. It's important. Any other discussions on the issue? If none, all right. Are you good?
Good.
Thank you. Yes, sir, Mr. McDonald.
Yes, just a word. Some years ago, when we had a water increase, of course, and I think Howard constantly reminds me of that first vote, I think, when we voted on an increase for water, I voted no. And of course, that was just the tip of what the infrastructure needs were. It suddenly dawned on me through the years, of course, that increase represented infrastructure, tools, and needs within the water system. Of course, Sam is right on point, I think, when he lifts up, if the increase is going to equate to better service, less complaints, and infrastructure needs being repaired or being fixed, we're all for that. So I just wanted to kind of put that on the table, sir.
Fantastic. Thank you. There's no more discussion. I'm going to move the previous question. Clerk Caldwell.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Rickman,
No.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Duval,
Aye.
Mr. Vine,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
No.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye. Thank you, ma'am. All right, again, as read into the record, ordinance 2021-42. Is there a motion?
I move approval.
I'll second the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to the previous question. Clerk call the roll.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Rickman,
No.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Duval,
Aye.
Mr. Vine,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Yes, with a comment.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye. I'm about to go back and check Robert's rules or city code, see if there's a thing. Make your comment, my friend.
Okay.
Yes,
Well,
Madam Clerk.
I'm sorry. I'm
Go ahead, bro.
I'm kind of reverting back to paint this picture on infrastructure. I'm again hoping that that we give that extra effort in terms of I'm still looking at infrastructure. Again, I don't know how you guys are dealing with this, and I spent a lot of time driving through the areas, fringe roads and put effort in there. I'm really encouraging us as a city to do a special effort. If we look at the amount of water flowing down the streets, and as a result of that, it impacts the asphalt. The latest big challenge for me was a couple of weeks ago, and I had to go by somebody's house about 6:45 in the morning to validate the call I wanted to make or would have to make to staff. My point is, I'd like to see us have the best streets this side of the Mississippi. If you want to look at territory, and I'm hoping that we can up that game and minimize the complaints we get about the roads. Howard?
Please, Howard, go ahead.
I would just like to remind the council that this special water service fees allowed us to get one of the largest water users ever on our system. And it's the increased revenue from that particular client that allowed us to come up with the 5.02% increase. Had we not had that, we would be looking at probably maybe a double. I think when Robert first came to the council, he was talking a 10% increase. It's the increased revenue by this special fee that we just adopted that allowed our system to afford $120 million worth of capital improvements during the coming year. It's very much needed.
Thank you, Howard. There's no, I think we voted on that one. I think that was a yes. Right. All right.
We did that backwards.
What Howard's saying is not actually true, because if you read what the special water rate is, it's about increased fees for delinquency fees from 10 to 40. We just got through having a discussion about how people were struggling. Charges $80 for disconnection and this and that. It had nothing to do with the special rate increase that you just mentioned, Howard. So let's not mislead people with the wrong statement.
I apologize if that was in error.
Okay, but I want to let me just close out. What I'm saying is, seriously, it's a question of what do you observe when you drive down the streets, drive through these neighborhoods.
We got you, bro. We got you.
Okay, and we've got to. I just think we've got to show a little more progress in that. Folks they're so gratified when we do respond and fix the problem, but there's just too many problems with it. Okay.
Well, you know, I missed kind of the disagreement between Daniel and Howard. I was distracted a bit, so I'm not going to speak to that. But when you're making historic investments in your infrastructure, and that's what our folks are doing right now. I mean, we're making historic investments. You're going to have some disruptions to quality of life. You just will. But I don't want it to fall on deaf ears. Our staff are busting their butts, being responsive and delivering on the promise of real and legitimate infrastructure that meets our sustainability commitments that we've made. The very first standalone stormwater green bond and certified by the Climate Bond Initiative in the country. I mean, we're moving forward and we're making investments, quite frankly, that we should have made a long time ago. But we're making them consistently now, and we're not going to stop. It won't make everyone comfortable all the time. But at least until we run through the tape at the end of this year, we're going to keep moving forward and making those investments. We'll always need to strive to get better. We must. You got to get better every single day. But yeah, the cost of progress can sometimes be very difficult. And we got to make sure that all these different concerns that we continue to meet them. We've done this without tax increases. We've done them with modest rate increases because it went a whole long time when we wouldn't make rate increases to make those investments and wound up with a consent decree. But we're making them now. We're going to continue making them if we do the right things. So I hope and pray that long after we're gone, there's a commitment to hold the line and continue making these investments. All right.
Just a closing on that, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor, and I had my
okay, good. All right. Yeah. So Mr. Davis and Ms.
Okay.
Devine.
Just I don't want you to not you, but I don't want my attention to this to be misconstrued. I think staff will verify that any and every time I bring something to their attention or call in a complaint and so forth, one, they're very responsive, and two, I personally thank them if I'm at the location or I pass it on to Clint. So it's not a put down. All I'm saying is that's something where that is an area where it won't hurt if we put a little more grease on the tracks and the elbow grease. You know, sure. We're doing a good job. Everybody gets credit and gets a special thanks when we do fix the problem.
Yes. All right. Thank you. Ms. Devine?
Yes, sir. I was actually going to say this after, but since the conversation has gone here, what I think, and there's points being made by everyone, but I think the reality is, in order to continue to improve, we've got to make the investments. What I do, I think, hear Mr. Davis saying, and I could agree to a certain extent on, you know, it's frustrating sometimes as we continue to talk to folks about the investments we're making, but we still get calls about not being able to get a response or having an exorbitant water bill and not getting a resolution until they contact one of us. I do know that things have gotten a lot better, and COVID has presented different challenges to us. So the response that we were being able to give people got slowed a little bit during COVID. What I would just elevate over the next year as we continue to make these improvements and as we get back to some semblance of normal, that, you know, Ms. Wilson and Mr. Shealy, and I know Tiffany is doing an amazing job, that we continue to be responsive to customers and make sure that they understand the problems that may come up. I know recently I had a constituent who had an issue and called in, and we were able to say, because of the upgrade in the water meter, was able to let the person know that they had a leak. And the person had a plumber out who told them they didn't have a leak. And so we were able to pinpoint that there was a leak because of the upgrade in the water meter. And now that has been fixed and their bill is going to be adjusted. But they shouldn't have to call council members in order to get that kind of resolution. So I just want to push that we continue to make those things better. because when we do tell people we're upgrading and that the water rates are going up, but then they continue to call because they have $1,000, $2,000 bill, it puts us in a really awkward position.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. That, I think, you know, all of you know, for me, customer care all across the city is my primary goal, that it be, our service delivery be of to meet the highest of expectations and be, you know, what our citizens deserve. And so with water and sewer issues and what that means for a citizen when they're, you know, waiting or, you know, if seeing something repaired, but then the restorations aren't done, a lot of that is the message that they get from the customer care center and Tiffany and her team. And you're right, bringing on Tiffany, such a experienced professional with customer care, is going a long way. The other issue that we're working through is the amount of work out there to be done. And I've heard all of you emphasize that if we have small local contractors who are quite capable, hopefully, of doing some of this work, to mobilize them. And you'll see on your next agenda some additional funds that we have reallocated to moving these projects, because Tiffany and those can only communicate what they're told, you know, that's happening in the field. And I acknowledge that the volume, and then to Ms. Devine's point, it being exacerbated through the pandemic, is great. So we're trying to get some indefinite delivery contracts on your agenda for next week and continuing to do this work. I know Mr. Rickaman has been in my ear about that, as well as a lot of you over the years. And I feel like we're at a point to really do that and also boost the economy by getting these contractors to work. Mr. Davis, I hear you loud and clear. You are doing just what you're supposed to do and staying in my ear. And you know, you may not believe it, I'll miss you in my ear over the years to come. So it's all good. I hear you. It's needed for us to always do better. I feel like we're doing great things, but you always have to push to do even better. And remember the people that we serve. And I will say that you have always consistently remind us to be aware of all those that we serve and affordability issues. I appreciate you, and we will miss you even through the budget process. And so to Mr. Duvall's point earlier, he was right. That it's the next item, Mr. Duvall, where he was mentioning the bulk. Well, the bulk rate was actually captured in the previous item, and then the expansion fee and the next item that you'll take up. And those are also economic development drivers for us. And so, you know, it's just a balance that we have to strike, as Mr. Rickaman and Mr. Davis are saying. I get it. And you all of your combined directives and guidance consistently, Mayor Benjamin, Ms. Devine, Reverend McDowell, everything you've all said, and Mr. Brennan, it doesn't fall on deaf ears. So I reassure you that with these small rate increases, we don't take it lightly. We know what it means for the people, but we're gonna make sure the upgrades continue with what you approve for us to do.
Hold the line. Mr. McDowell.
Mr. Mayor, I move the previous question, please.
Thank you. Before you do that, I want to know why Teresa said she's going to miss Sam but not miss me, but that's a whole nother story.
No, Benjamin.
Don't believe everything you hear.
I was trying to reassure him about his vote, Mayor Benjamin. I get it.
I won't take it personally. I lost track after all the comments. Are we on item 2021-43 already? Has the motion been made there and seconded?
Yes.
I don't have a motion for that item.
We have not. All right. So, Mr. McDowell has a motion to move approval of 2021-43. Second the motion. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to the previous question. Clerk call.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Rickaman,
No.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Duval,
Aye.
Ms. Devine,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye, thank you, ma'am.
And Erica, you got your vote for item 4, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
All right, super. All right, so we're gonna skip over, as we indicated, to item 7.
Yes, sir. Item 7 is an ordinance first reading, ordinance number 2021-045, consenting to the inclusion of property in a multi-county industrial business park, Project Catawba at 919 Catawba Avenue, 318 Lincoln Street, and 312 Lincoln Street in Richland County.
Is there a motion?
Yes, sir.
I moved.
Ms. McDowell?
Second.
All right, Mr. Davis makes a motion, Ms. McDowell seconds. Discussion.
My question is 045 a new ordinance? Is that the same
first
ordinance
reading.
number we had before for Project Catawba?
No, sir.
That's a new ordinance, okay.
All right, Ms. Devine, then Mr. Rickman, and go ahead, Mika.
I just wanted to speak to a question I had. I know there's been lots of commitments made by the developer. I know they've been constantly working over the last week, but several of the commitments are vague. And I just wanted to know, are we going to require those to be fleshed out before second reading? Or how are we going to make sure that those commitments that have been promised actually do get fulfilled?
Is that question? Who's that question for? Or maybe that's a directive.
Yeah, I mean, I think I know that. I mean, even Ryan sent us something as late as about 30 minutes ago with the commitments regarding traffic and safety, and it just says commitment. And so I know that in talking to the developer, there are some things regarding traffic and safety that require DOT and even the railroads, which I know would take a little bit more time. So I'm asking, are we going to hold second reading until those things are in place? Will there be some kind of memorandum of understanding that can be, that is enforceable? I'm just trying to figure out how are we going to make sure that the commitments that have been made to this point that may encourage some of us to support when we didn't support previously, how are we going to make sure that those are enforced?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And I don't know if TK, if that's a question for you, if Ryan, if that's a question for you, but I'd like somebody to speak to that. And if the recommendation is to hold second reading until we have a comfort level, I'm fine with that. But I would like to know how are we going to hold them to these commitments.
Well, maybe, go ahead, Mr. McDowell.
Yeah, I was just going to ask whether or not the developer's online today.
I'm not sure about that. We can get them on, I'm sure.
But if that's, yeah, okay.
Mr. Davis?
I would be comfortable with the first reading, given I think some of the points, some of the elements of this is consistent with what we want to do with the parks. And then I agree, either by the second reading or we come up with another time frame for any further clarification that's needed. There are efforts, from what I'm reading and understand, to satisfy our requirements, to meet the requirements. But also, I think what is attracting me is that there's a relationship with that part of town, with that neighborhood, the citizens organization, which has always been a challenge down there, but they seem to be on the same page.
And Daniel, I apologize. You were up next.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
fine. Are you done, Sam?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I wanted to, between now and second reading, I think it's very important that we get that it's been stated that there's $1 million worth of revenue coming to the city. I mean, to the county as a whole. We need to make sure staff vets that out before second reading and provides us that is true the case, because it is revenue. We're taking a fee in lieu. This isn't an economic development deal. This is clearly, if you read the proposal they brought forward, this is a one-off project because the tax situation in Richland County is too high to do it without it. So one of the questions I have is why we can't try to get a better split with the county on the money, and the city bears all the costs in here. We bear all the service costs. Is that something, since they haven't done third reading, that we could talk to them about as well? I think this would be a good opportunity for the city to take a portion of that money and invest it in affordable housing. And then lastly, I wanted to commend Mayor Coble for registering for lobbying for this project this morning, recognizing that had not been done and that it's part of our guidelines. And I would encourage the other members of that team to register as well. There are 4 people who have been consistently on all the emails, and they need to register as well before second reading.
Maybe we might want to have all the people who advocate before council on every particular issue to register. A whole lot of folks.
They're supposed to.
A lot of folks on a lot of different issues who don't register. I couldn't agree more. Let's make sure we talk to all of our friends about that. As it relates to
consistently for our city clerk.
As it relates to the characterizations, it's not an economic development deal. I couldn't disagree more. When you look at a piece of property laid fallow, as we have across this city, and then we have obviously enough disagreements on this topic at 20,000 feet. But probably that pays a fraction, literally a fraction of
it's a revenue deal.
Daniel, and that goes up precipitously because of our ability to help create that environment for investment. I disagree that that's not economic development. On the second point, I couldn't agree with you more, Daniel, on the fact that I think every opportunity we have, particularly when you're dealing with FELO, to get more involvement from the county, we should always seek that. I'm not, if I'd hang my hat on that, whatever we can do legally, goes back to Tamika's initial point. Let's articulate. Obviously, I think more than an email from staff, a letter from Dentistry that lays out the commitments they've made to the folks in those neighborhoods and those that overlap with the city and the county. Let's get that articulated in some way, and obviously the things that can be delivered on before second reading. Let's have those delivered on. Those that will have to be delivered prospectively. Whatever we can legally do, let's get that done. But we're not going to hold up second reading in perpetuity in order to get this done. I do want to particularly Tamika and Ed and Sam for your direct engagement. I know, Tamika, you've also come to the table. Obviously, the idea that Daniel mentioned too about some of these resources going into affordable housing. We've got to continue to be as creative as possible as we have been. I want to thank Brian and really thank Mayor Coble and the rest of the team for pushing to make sure this gets done. I think it's important. And it's a way in which we love to talk about taxes being high as they are for a number of different reasons, although we haven't raised taxes in 12 years in Columbia. But it's one thing to admire the problem. It's another thing to actually decide you're going to do something about it. And we're deciding that we're going to do something about it on this particular project and the other projects that brought significant, literally hundreds of millions of dollars of capital investment to our capital city. We're not going to stop. Mr. Duval, did you have something? Mr. Duval and Mr. Rickman's hand up again.
Okay, yes, I just wanted to remind us that we've gotten the letter from President Caslin this afternoon through Rebecca Best about safety concerns that the USC has with this project. And while we're looking at things that need to be written down, we need to look at if we can require some safety considerations for the students that will be living in that development.
All right, let's y'all think of something that makes some sense going forward. Ms. Devine and Mr. Rickman.
Well, I was going to say, well, to Howard, at that point, I have forwarded that to Durstein after I got it from Rebecca, and I'm waiting for that response. Oh, okay. I was going to say Ryan's sending us more emails, but that's from earlier. I did want to just, Mr. Mayor, make a statement. So I think there are still some things being worked out. I just wanted to share that I am supportive of trying to work things out with this developer in order to get this done. But I want to elevate my concern. I know, although this is not proposed as student housing, and that was a concern of mine. And I think that Durstein has done significant progress in the last 2 weeks of trying to address concerns like the wetlands and investing in infrastructure, some safety concerns. I think there's still some other traffic concerns that need to be addressed. Certainly the affordable housing piece has been addressed. And I know that, some people would say it's not enough, but it's a lot more than a lot of developers who come here do, and certainly elevates that we have to ask for it. And this should be the norm that we do on any kind of development that asks for participation, making sure that they're helping us meet our affordable housing needs. But I would say kind of my biggest concern is as far as a standpoint, we do have a developer who's come to town, checked all the boxes, met with the county, gotten their support, looks like significantly met with the neighborhood and addressed a lot of the neighborhood's concerns. And this is the kind of person we do want to do good development in our city. Moving forward though, and I know Mr. Brennan and I have talked about this, I do want us to address this council's commitment or desire to continue to work on projects like this for student housing. If we want to change our criteria and make sure that we're putting in things like Mr. Rickman mentioned, money for affordable housing, addressing, things being more income, multi-family instead of student housing. I think we need to address that moving forward. But I'm concerned that, if we say we're not going to do student housing forward, we need to make sure developers are aware of that up front. So I am supportive of this on first reading, but I do think that there are some other things that we have to have commitments for. They need to be not vague commitments in writing. And I know that they haven't had a lot of time to work on this, but commitment to traffic, yes, commitment to traffic, but what does that mean? What is that going to look like? And how do we hold them accountable for those things? So I would like to see those things before second reading, but because of that, I will support it on first reading.
Thank you, Mr. McDowell, then Mr. Rickman, then Mr. McDowell.
Go ahead, Daniel.
I just wanted to add to that I think it'd be very helpful if we gathered all the things that we need to look at, if it's a memorandum, how we're going to have that established, because there are a lot of commitments that are made, and I think it needs to be all put together, and then get some affirmation from our staff that the numbers that are provided to us, which the developer agreed to share with us, I haven't seen them yet, but so that we can vet those and make sure that the projections and everything are in line with what's being presented. This is a lot better project than it was when it first came to us. And I think it can get better if we can get all this wrapped up in a bow. But I do agree with Ms. Devine and Mr. Brennan. We need to look at this as we move forward and really come up with a little better criteria and then pre-negotiate, I think, with the county, because most of these projects are happening in the city and we're bearing the costs, and we really ought to get a better split on the fee in lieu.
Thank you. Mr. McDowell?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of item 2021-04. First read.
All right. Is there a second? I think it was a motion. I think there was a motion.
Second.
Yeah, they just,
Yes, sir. We already had a motion.
yeah, okay.
I wanted to
We already had one.
I'll have clarity from Teresa Knotts on if the motion needs to reflect any of what, the addition of clarifying points by second reading or any of I don't feel like the information that you've received is a part of the item that's on the agenda.
It is not, but I think what the request is that those items articulated in the email received from Ryan, we can make that that they be whatever can be added in terms of the ordinance. Let's add them, but I think a firm letter and commitment from the developer committing to those items should be
Incorporated by second reading.
Incorporated by second reading, those that can legally be done so. Those that cannot, obviously, we're going to have to trust the developer to deliver on those promises. But I think as many hooks we can put into making sure those commitments made to the neighborhood leaders are met. Let's do it, okay? And we'll look at those on second reading. The other clarifying documents. Again, any other extraneous conversations that may have been had with here ought to be summarized in the one document that like Daniel requested, so we can all know everything that we're looking at. And let's just keep on pushing. I'm not sure if there's some effort or possibility. Ryan is listening and focusing on a different split on the philo. Let's look at that as well. I mean, it's always a plus. So let's look at that as well. But I wouldn't make that a condition. My sense is that the more of what we see that's been argued by all the members of council, the more comfortable it makes us to get the second reading. All right. Fair enough. So we're voting on the matter before us as published to the public.
Right.
The previous question, clerk, call a roll.
Mr. Brennan,
No.
Mr. Rickerman,
Aye.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Duval,
Aye.
Mr. Vine,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye. Thank you, ma'am.
And Mayor Benjamin and council, we do have the bigger discussion just regarding the incentive itself and how you all would like to see that change in any way or how we move forward on your next Tuesday agenda. Is that still your preference?
Why don't y'all take the first Tuesday after the beginning of 2022?
You think you're gonna get out without having to work a little bit more? There's more big boy.
First thing smoking, baby. Let y'all. I'm also, and I'm not going to fib y'all. I'm also trying to get the opening night tonight. That's a whole nother story. So let's see if we can make that happen.
Is that a joke? I'm serious.
Oh no, I was serious, but I think there might be an interest by my other 6 colleagues to actually talk about it a lot sooner than that.
Yeah. Ms. Wilson, Mr. Brennan and I have been talking about it, and I apologize. I was supposed to talk with Ms. Knotts about some ideas that Mr. Brennan and I had, and I've not had an opportunity to do that. So maybe the 3 of us can connect this week, and then we can bring some options for council to consider.
Okay.
I know Mr. Coleman's pulling together that requested research as well. So the mayor.
Yeah, that's what he's been working on it. So we were preparing to present that on Tuesday, on the 18th, but we can certainly push it into June if you prefer.
Are we legit meeting like every week, y'all?
Just this month, Mayor.
Okay. All right. Yes,
Either that or
Once in July.
And it's not even the whole month. Just one more meeting next week.
I like seeing y'all. I like seeing you, Mr. Davis.
On this point, is that something that needs to just come to council, or should we really send it to the appropriate standing committee?
That's a good idea.
Great idea, Councilman.
Your committee, Sam?
I'm not sure. Depends on how y'all want to frame it.
I mean, Development.
No, I'm fine with going to committee. Like,
Would y'all like to make that referral, Mr. Mayor? Or
This
Mr.
is-
Davis?
I just threw it out there, but I don't have a problem with it.
that's why I think we are on the agenda. Who's
Look at
who?
that. Y'all are just so
Pam,
efficient.
and who else is on that committee?
Everybody's so accommodating today.
Will,
Daniel.
Oh, and Daniel, who the three of y'all? All right. If y'all are comfortable with that, send it to committee. Don't y'all just kill it though, man. Y'all come back with some recommendations as to how to make it even.
That's why I suggested it, because it's so
Remember
important.
that 100% of nothing is nothing. Okay, so
Well,
y'all be creative.
Yeah, we
Can't
need
wait to show you, Mayor. Can't wait to show you.
Yeah. Daggone committee meeting ever. Yeah, yeah. So, but I'd like the co-hosts to share the information nonetheless with Ryan. Let's take it to committee. There's a motion, Mr. Davis, to take that policy discussion to the Economic and Community Development Committee. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion with the previous question? Call the roll.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Rickman,
Yes.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Duval,
Aye.
Mr. Vine,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin.
All right. Thank you, man. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Yeah. We get it in, y'all. We get it in, but we get it done. So let's keep on pressing. Appreciate it. Yeah. Madam City Manager, I'm sorry, do we have any other committee referrals or reports? All right. Okay, good deal. All right. One signed up for public input, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. We have two individuals in the speaker queue.
Oh, please bring them on through.
Okay.
Give them-
We'll remind callers that they have 3 minutes to speak to the city council.
Thank you, ma'am. All right.
Hello, can you hear me?
We sure can.
I missed the part where you're voting on extending the mask ordinance. What did you guys decide on?
Have not.
Would you say your name and name for the record, sir?
Oh, Michael Bailey.
Yeah, Mr. Bailey.
Michael Bailey.
We have not yet discussed the ordinance, Mr. Bailey.
Is it going to be still happening this meeting?
Yes.
Yes, sir, it will.
Okay, I guess I'll just keep waiting then.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Just remember all the non-compliance out there. People aren't happy with it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bailey. All right. We good? All right, next caller, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir.
Members, this is actually Adam Beck with Interesting. I just was in the queue. I didn't realize I just got delayed a little bit. So I apologize, but I appreciate everyone's vote of confidence here. We can address everybody's issues, I think, in a one concise memo and get that out, I think, to everybody pretty soon.
Get all over this, Beck. Make this happen, man. It's on you.
I'm working on it. Appreciate everybody. Thanks again for everyone's time today.
I know. Stay engaged with our economic development people. Continue listening to council, and definitely keep your ears to the ground with the neighborhood leaders. It'll make this happen faster and make us much more successful. Thanks again for you and your family and company looking to invest in Columbia. It is very much appreciated. Thank you.
No, thank you guys. Really appreciate it. We're looking forward to it. Thanks again.
All right, bud. All right. That's everyone, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir.
All right. So again, for the record, y'all, we're gonna go in executive session, take up the matters there, get a COVID-19 discussion, then we'll come back out and take up the emergency ordinance. And hopefully we'll be judicious with everyone's time as we do that. So thank you very much. Is there a motion to go in executive session?
Mr.
Mr.
Mayor. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Howard.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we go into executive session for receipt of legal advice related to matters covered by attorney-client privilege pursuant to SC Code 30-4-70A2, COVID-19, discussion of the employment of an employee pursuant to SC Code 30-4-70A1, city manager and city attorney.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. McDowell, do you have something? Are you good?
No, just different, something different, personal privilege when we get to it, please.
Absolutely. We can do that now. You indicated you wanted to make a motion. I apologize, Mr. McDowell.
Yeah, what I'd like to say, Mr. Mayor, we did receive an ordinance, a resolution for a chief health officer. I don't want to talk about it. It's not necessary for us to talk about it now. It has gone through the necessary processes, and of course, at the appropriate time, would like to add it futuristically on the agenda.
Okay, so thanks, Mr. McDowell. And you told me you wanted to make that, bring that up. Let's have it go through the agenda review process. I encourage you to socialize it with the rest of council.
Yes, sir.
And we'll take it. We'll take it up at the appropriate time. And procedurally, we still got a motion on the floor. But Mr. Rickman, did you want to get something in before we had the vote?
I just want to clarify what Reverend McDowell said. He said it's gone through the process. I'm not sure what that process is, and could somebody lay out where that I think been provided, because the rest of council has not been notified, and I don't think city staff has had it either. So I'm just curious what process it's gone through.
I think the point Reverend McDowell is making is that it's going to go through the proper process.
Yes.
And before it gets to council or the.
That's correct. I'm sorry. Yes.
All right. Thank you all. We're going to move the previous question. Clerk Caldwell.
Mr. Brennan.
Yes.
Mr. Rickman.
Aye.
Mr. McDowell.
Yes.
Mr. Duval.
Aye.
Ms. Devine.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk.
Oh, you're welcome.
On the issue of emergency ordinance number 2021 through 27, emergency ordinance extending and amending certain emergency measures. We're at a point in the evolution of the pandemic that I know continues to give this council great concern, but at the very same time, incredible hope. We're seeing a deceleration in a number of cases to a point where we could have only prayed for and hoped for at this point last year. A measure has always been significant acceleration in the positivity rate below 5% extend for 2 weeks. So we've met that measurement and met that well in excess of the 2 week desired tenure or on average. We've had a couple of spikes, but it's been consistently low, and the level of community spread is someplace again where we feel it is warranted to begin to eliminate some of the measures that are in place. There's an equal concern because we see a direct correlation between the local efforts led by the city of Columbia and other cities and towns and counties across the state, including Richmond, institute mass ordinance to help that's helped us get to this point, with of course the significant acceptance of the vaccines, I should say, across the state. Where as of today, we have 34.6% of our residents have completed their vaccination. About 4.7 million doses received, and across the county, almost 148,000 people who have at least one vaccine. We're so fortunate that in the numbers reported that we have no fatalities this year. We're going in the right direction. This council is of at least the collective, if not unanimous opinion, that our efforts going forward ought to be significantly enhance and focus on pushing up our vaccination numbers so that we can get to a point where we can be closer to the 70 or even 80% range. And we realize the fact that the vaccines are readily available to those of us who may be more privileged and have access to transportation and the like, that universal access and equitable access are two very different things. So we're going to announce a strategy over the next few days, working in intergovernmental partnerships and intergovernment and intersectoral partnerships to aggressively begin delivering the vaccine to families and households all across the city. And I'm positive that the leadership of County Council and the County Administration will work closely with us in that effort. Again, ensuring that every single resident of Richland County and the City of Columbia has access to the vaccine, unfettered access, and confidence in what the leadership of this country and world leaders, I would say, have in making sure this vaccine was available and remains available to all of us will be our priority. We're going to focus intensively, I should say, on a vaccine strategy that's going to get more shots in arms. As it relates to the emergency ordinance and the protocols in place that even allow us to meet electronically, I'm going to propose two things today to amend the ordinance before us. We are all happy, none more than my youngest daughter and probably some of the other children or grandchildren of those on this call, that 12 to 15-year-olds will now be eligible and maybe getting shots in arms as recently as this week. We want an on-ramp for those teenagers to be able to get their vaccines as we approach Memorial Day and come out of Memorial Day. We are fortunate enough that on-ramp will give us an off-ramp when the county ordinance expires on June 5th. So my proposed amendment to the ordinance is drafted and shared with the public is that we'd extend our mask ordinance to June 5th, 2021. And I don't mind sharing transparently that it is probably a preponderance and majority of the council, all understanding the significant challenges before us, that there's a desire for the mask ordinance to end, but there's a greater desire to make sure we're doing every single thing we possibly can to ensure public health. That means we got to make sure that we continue to exhibit in public. I'm vaccinated. I've been vaccinated for well over a month now. I'll continue to wear my mask in public and in places where I'm not convinced that every single other person around me has been vaccinated. But we need a window within which we can get these children vaccinated. We will take that window, and I would expect fully, and obviously I'll let my colleagues speak to their end, that there will not be, unless there's some uptick in the number of cases, that there will not be a renewal of this ordinance after June 5th. So we're going to have to do every single thing we possibly can to push hard and fast, put our foot in the gas, and make sure we get as many people vaccinated between now and then. This emergency ordinance, obviously, as it relates to the rest of the ordinance, extends for 61 days, which means that the third week in July, we will return to regular order, and council will begin meeting in public. Again, barring some spike in the numbers, which prayerfully we will not see. And I believe that date is maybe July 20th will be our first in-person meeting. Still unsure, a doubt based on some of the protocols articulated by the city manager and her team. We'll probably be meeting somewhere other than the council chamber, someplace that allows us to have proper spacing and distancing. That is my motion to council, that we extend to June 5th to marry up with the county ordinance to give us at least as much consistency across the footprint of Richland County as possible. That we give an on-ramp for these 12 to 15-year-olds to get their vaccines. If we do this right, it gets us through Memorial Day, and as it relates to the balance of the ordinance, that we expect to come back into into regular order meetings in July on our July 20th meeting. And Madam City Manager, I might also add the conversations we've had about aggressive vaccination initiatives, that plan and effort be made public and available to the public, because we're going to need, obviously, a full public participation if we're going to have some success there as well. Let's push these this vaccine acceptance rate up significantly and make Columbia a model city across the country. That's a motion.
I second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Duval. We're in a period of discussion. Any discussion? Well, we'll move to the previous question. Clerk, call roll.
Mr. Brennan. Mr. Brennan.
Yes.
Mr. Rickman.
No.
Mr. McDowell.
You're on mute, Ed.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Mr. Duval.
Yes.
Ms. Devine.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Rickman, please.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to speak earlier. I just wanted to say is that I support your efforts to get vaccinations door to door. I think we ought to do everything we can to get everybody vaccinated, but I also feel like we have been under what we had told people we were for over 30 days, and it's really gotten to be a point where it's time to let it go. But I fully support getting every effort we can to get to every single home that we can to help them get vaccinated.
Thank you, Dave. Any other comment? We can do this, y'all. Let's leverage technology to help us get this done. But we know it's really going to come down to some real sweat equity, knocking doors, and there's some folks out there, even in 2021, who don't have the resources, may have a copious amounts of misinformation, disinformation. It's our job to help combat that and help people get shots in arms. So we're going to take it on, take it seriously. And I think, as always, I tell folks we have tension, as any public body should. You want divergent views, and you want to be able to build consensus. And we've shown an ability to do that and lead from the front. So thank you all. We are going to. It was important we handle that. As I know folks were waiting on that discussion to occur. Mr. Duval, if you wouldn't mind, we go on renew.
Mr. Mayor, I move we go back into executive session under the previously announced number 9, discussion of employment of employee pursuant to SC Code 30-4-70A1, city manager and city attorney.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion with the previous question. Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. Brennan.
Yes.
Mr. Rickman.
Aye.
Mr. McDowell.
Yes.
Mr. Duval.
Aye.
Ms. Devine.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye. Thank you.
You're welcome. Please stand by.